Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Building More Than Just a Body with Celeste Rains Turk. I'm here with Blake Bowman, who is a corrective exercise specialist who basically just helps people to fix their broken bodies. And I'm going to let him introduce that topic a little bit more in depth. So go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Celeste. It's a pleasure. You're a very inspiring individual yourself.
Thank you.
But what I do is I teach people basically how to take their orthopedic health into their own hands. You know, lots of times people are really reliant on physicians, physical therapists, osteopathic physicians, chiropractors. They're reliant externally on these, professionals, to get relief from the issues that they have. And oftentimes they're just treating symptoms instead of root causes, which are typically muscular imbalances. Some muscles are going to be too tight. Certain muscles are going to be too long and weak. And these things distort our posture and alignment and kind of predispose us to injury. So what I teach people to do is how to fix those things at the root level, so they can really, regain a lot of function in their life and also become self-sufficient with it. So they're not, relying externally on somebody else to help these things. I give them the knowledge that they need to fix their own bodies because, I've kind of been there myself.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so cool and something that not a lot of people are doing, not only for themselves, but for other people. So I love that that's what you specialize in because we all know how important it is, but a lot of times there's no action taken on actually making those things work and happen. And you're right, we do rely a lot on doctors and physicians and people to just address the symptoms rather than to address the root of the problem. So speaking of how you've been through this, what exactly got you into fitness and doing all of this?
They're doing this.
Yes, what got you into fitness and making this your message?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been into fitness when I've always been in sports ever since I was very young. I started with like soccer when I was like 6 or whatever. I was an athlete my entire life all the way up into college. And then when I got into college, I started having a lot of orthopedic issues. I kind of transitioned out of sports and went mostly into weightlifting, kind of like bodybuilding. And, when I was in college, but prior to that, I had no joint issues, no joint pain. And what I found is that when I got into college, I, kind of started getting a lot of pain, back pain, shoulder pain. I had some surgery on my shoulder. And I was getting stronger and stronger in the gym, but more like broken and battered at the same time. I was literally putting on muscle mass, but, having these injuries at the same time. And I couldn't figure out why this was happening to me. So I really, long story short, I struggled with a lot of chronic pain and injuries myself, bad posture. Although I was getting stronger, I struggled with these things. And I really kind of took it upon myself to figure out what was going on. So that I can fix these issues in myself. And so, I've always been interested in fitness. It's just kind of something that happened. I became a certified personal trainer when I was 19. I'm 26 now. But I really became specializing in what I'm doing now after I had my own experience with, chronic joint pain. I couldn't work out without my joints getting flared up. My SI joint pain would really like act up and kill me when I was done doing deadlifts and things like that.
Mm.
And, when you're in pain, your whole life is miserable. So I set out to fix myself, and I accomplished that. And now I help other people that are in similar situations do that for themselves because, I knew that there were other people out there that were just like me that had these issues going on. Just intuitively, because whatever's going on with ourselves, other people are also struggling with these things. So I just knew that other people needed this kind of, assistance. And, that's kind of how I got into personal training. And that's kind of how I got into this specialty too. I really want to help other people, get out of pain because you can do everything that you need to do to put on muscle. You can, be following proper nutrition. You can be meditating and things like that. But if you're not working on these muscular imbalances that form as the result of, everyday activities, living in the 21st century in this dysfunctional society that we live in, if you're not taking care of those things, your orthopedic health will really take the hit. And there was not a lot of people out there talking about the things that I was talking about, and I thought that other people could use some assistance there.
Yeah, definitely. I really like what you said about how you can be gaining on the muscle mass and strength, but the truth is you're really destroying your insides if you're not taking time to focus on those joints and those corrective movements. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you see a lot of people in the fitness industry who are these like coaches, and I mean, they don't necessarily like help their clients or even practice their own proper movements themselves. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I'm not going to name names in the industry, but I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube. Like, oh, check out my squat. And it's like, that is not a squat, or that is not how you
Yes.
do a bicep curl. And it's like, there's so much like misinformation out there that I think it can be really hard for people to focus on the things that sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times focusing on these corrective exercises is a mundane thought to people who just want to put on muscle mass. So um,
Absolutely.
I think the fitness industry could be doing better to make it so that these corrective exercises become a habit for people to really practice.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to touch on what you ended with. Yeah, it's like corrective exercise is not like sexy, right? Like it's not going to give you like a six pack or anything like that. It's going to like improve your posture and the way that you move. And oftentimes, you know, most people are not perceiving that kind of thing. So, um, but yeah, I mean, it's super important, right? Because you can be jacked, you can have an eight pack, but does that really matter if you're in pain all the time? You know, like it doesn't matter how good you look. If you're in pain all the time, that's going to affect your consciousness and your perception, the way that you see the world. And you're going to be looking at everything through this lens of pain, you know, and that's going to make you a
Yes.
grumpy person. Your energy is going to go down, all sorts of things like that. But in regards to, you know, what the fitness industry can do to be better, I think that there just needs to be a lot more awareness about posture and corrective exercise and muscular balance and muscular imbalance just throughout the industry on every single level, from personal trainers to coaches to group fitness instructors. I think that if there was, especially in CrossFit, especially CrossFit, if there was more of a awareness of these things in those different areas in the fitness industry, I think we would see a lot less people with, you know, chronic pain, chronic joint injuries, back pain, so on and so forth. And as we all know, you know, back pain affects, you know, a very large population of adults.
Yeah, I believe over 70% of especially Americans end up having to go to doctor or get treatment for back pain. And
Yeah.
just to like kind of go off on that, I just want to like talk about how a big part of that, as you know, and I'm sure like we're going to be talking from the same microphone here, is basically like the sedentary lifestyle that most people are living, sitting in chairs all day, getting really tight hips, not taking time to stretch, get up, walk, and move, is what's causing this. Because as babies, we're able to move this way. We're not putting all this stress in our bodies. So we condition because our bodies adapt to demands placed on it. So if we continue to put it in these horrible positions or to be sedentary and not cause it to move and actually stay flexible, then we run into these problems. And just to touch on what you said about the effect of living with chronic pain, I actually suffered, and of course, like it's not something that goes away, but like depression. And so I realized that when I would talk to my therapist, it was a big deal that I was in chronic pain all the time. Like I still suffer with back pain, but of course, knowing what I know now, like I really try to take steps to, of course, fix that. But the thing is like, it's so true that being in pain causes you to see the world differently and causes you to approach life differently. Because even just looking at people who do have pain every day, they maybe don't want to go out as much. Maybe they don't feel like getting up because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So what's one thing that, like, what's one tip you could give someone who feels that way, and how could they start developing these better movement patterns?
Yeah. So I like what you're saying about, you know, like sitting, for example. And, you know, corrective exercise wouldn't be needed. It wouldn't be a requirement if we didn't have dysfunctional lifestyles. And what I mean by that is it's like most Americans are, you know, their cortisol stress levels are way too high. They're sitting way too much. They're just way too sedentary. All of these things are not natural, you know, are hunter and gatherer primitive ancestors wouldn't be sitting. Their cortisol would be a lot lower. They wouldn't have problems associated with 21st century living, and therefore they didn't need to do corrective exercise. They didn't need to manage their stress levels and things like that because they didn't have the same issues as we do. But we do these things, and they're extreme relative to how we kind of evolved as a species. We're not meant to sit with our hips flexed, which means like your femurs, your leg bones pulled up like this. Like the position that I'm in right now is hip flexion. We're not meant to be like that. And if we are like that, we need to take steps to undo it in order to keep our joint health optimal. But with regard to, back pain, I think you were asking me like something that people can do to help that. Is that what you're asking me, Celeste?
Yeah, just any tip you can give to someone who feels like any pain they're in. Maybe it's shoulder, knee, back, whatever, joint pain. Let's just talk about that. How could you help someone who's like, there's nothing left for me to do, I don't know where to go from this, I'm in so much pain, like they're
Yes.
seeing the world from that point of pain?
Well, the first thing that I would, if some people tell me that a lot, my clients, like they've exploited every option available to them. They've been to osteopathic physicians, surgery, chiropractors, massage therapists. They've had injections, all sorts of things. So the first thing, if somebody said that to me, that I would tell them is to reframe the way that they're looking at that and realize that there's always hope. Our bodies are incredibly, durable and adaptive, and they heal themselves. You just have to set up the environment so that they can do that. So really, with regard to like any joint pain, with the right approach, sometimes you have to have medical intervention with some, certain treatments I like, but oftentimes, if you get it at the root, you can make a big difference. But the first thing I would say is to reframe the way that you're looking at that. Realize that there is always potential to improve, potential to get better. And, so, look out into the horizon knowing that there's possibilities and a future for yourself. Never lose hope. But with regard to like generalized joint pain, there are a lot of different like muscle imbalances that can cause, pain. And they're kind of complicated from joint to joint, but like some of the most common ones, and I'm going to try to give some valuable information here. Some of the most common like muscular imbalances that distort joint position and therefore predispose an individual to injury are in the shoulders and in the hips. Okay. And in the shoulders, one of the biggest, muscular imbalances that are contributors to all sorts of types of shoulder injury, shoulder impingement, bursitis, rotator cuff tears, is an imbalance that's associated with something called upper cross syndrome, where basically your pec muscle tissues become too tight relative to your upper back muscles. And when this gets tight and this gets weak, that happens to your shoulder. And now you're walking around like this, okay? And that's not an optimal alignment for your arm bone. And, that really, like I said, will predispose your shoulder injury. So, just on a really basic level, what you can do is you can kind of lay off training your chest a little bit, emphasize stretching the chest, foam rolling the stress or the chest, and then emphasize exercises that actually strengthen your upper back and retract the scapula. The scapula are your shoulder blades. So you want to do exercises like face pulls, things like that are actually going to pull your shoulder blades together behind your back. By stretching this and strengthening that, you can improve the position of your shoulder posture and the alignment, and then you'll default to this position when you're not thinking about it, as opposed to this position, which is not a good position to be in, can cause all sorts of problems. But then another one, and this is like, people talk about this all over the place. If you sit for a long time, you can develop shortness in the front of your hips, the hip flexor muscles. And that can distort the position of your pelvis, cause something called an anterior pelvic tilt, where your pelvis kind of sticks forward and your kind of goes like this. It rolls forward and your belly sticks out and your lower back arches. That's another, misalignment. That's a suboptimal position to be in that predisposes people to all sorts of pain. It exacerbates like any kind of like back pain. And really the way you go about that really is emphasizing core strength, emphasizing glute strength, which most people don't have enough of, right? Most people, we sit on our asses all day and the neurons in there get shut off. The muscle is getting stretched chronically when you're sitting on it. And most people lose glute function, which predisposes their knee, low back, and hip all to injury. So like, the biggest things that you can do is like stretch your pecs, stretch the front of your shoulders, strengthen those muscles of your upper back, stretch the hip flexor muscles, which I would try to demonstrate, but it's like, I don't really have a lot of room over here, and it's kind of.
We'll send them to your YouTube.
Yes. Stretch the hip flexors and strengthen the gluteals, not with squats though, but with exercises that are what's called antero-posterior, with like hip thruster movements where you're like laying on your back and you're pushing your hips up into the air. Those are really the best exercises to hit the glutes. Incorporate those 4 kind of stretches and movements into your routine, and for most people that will make a big difference.
Yes, exactly. And I want to also add to that, a lot of times what I'll have my clients do, or if I'm training in person as well, because I am mostly an online trainer, is I definitely, if someone's hitting a lot of chest that day, I try to end with some sort of a back movement to keep you from walking out of the gym in this position. It's really good to reopen up the spine. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, I just hit, it's like, okay, let's fix this problem while it's available to us to do, because you're already warm, and we just need to reopen up that chest, because a lot of people will leave walking out like that.
Yeah, another thing too that I like to tell my clients, Celeste, is that if you have trained your pecs like a lot that day, you did a lot of bench press, and these things get really tight, and you don't work your upper back, your shoulders are going to like internally rotate, and you're going to come in like this, and then you can't really see your chest as much.
There you go. Exactly.
By improving posture and the position of your shoulders, not only do you kind of bulletproof your shoulder and help to prevent injury, but you can see clearly right here, bad posture from having tight pecs, good posture from lengthening the pecs. You can actually improve like the muscularity in terms of like visual perception of your pecs just by having better posture. It does not look good to be all turned inwards like this.
Yes, exactly. Like to anybody listening and not necessarily watching, check it out on YouTube, or just consider when you watch, like, if you think about a bodybuilder and they're on stage and the pose that they're doing to show off their chest muscles is they're open and they're like reaching back or forward depending on their flexibility, let's be honest, and they're usually flexing a tricep as well, but they do this with their shoulders back. So to those of you listening, your shoulders are back and your chest is high, opposed to your chest being sunken in and your shoulders being rounded. So the demo on this video is a lot better and easier to see, but definitely consider the fact that anyone who's really trying to emphasize the way that they look and look good, no one's walking around like with their head down and shoulders together. It's the same thing as how you present yourself for confidence and to make people really trust you. You wouldn't come up to someone in a situation with your shoulders forward and your neck in and just saying like, hey, what's up? You'd come in chest up, back, your back squeezed together, basically your shoulders, why am I stumbling? Shoulders back, chest up, sorry, and then you would come in with a lot more confidence because you're presenting yourself with this strength and this perception of being able to really show the strength that you've made by presenting yourself as an open posture rather than closed. So think about being open more than you are hunched over in any situation.
Celeste, that's very interesting that you brought that up, because I've talked about that in some of my videos, and at a university in Detroit where I live, I've talked about that as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of body language. Body language is crucial. Like I forgot what the percentage is, but it's like 80% of communication is nonverbal, right? So if you walk into some place, whether it's a social gathering, a bar, a party, or even like school or a job interview, and you're like this, you're sending out messages to people, which you probably don't want to be sending out, right? You're sending out messages, oh, I'm not very confident in myself. I'm not probably the best person for this job. I don't really have a lot of confidence. Don't hire me. You don't want to be sending out those messages, but that's what your body is sending out for you. So not, I mean, it's there, that perception that other people have on you is really contingent on your posture. And something that's really fascinating also is that having good posture, being in an expansive stance, there was a really good study that Harvard Business School did back in like 2012, I think it was, on power posing. And basically, yes, they showed that there's physiologic changes that happen in your hormones from having good posture. Being open like this actually decreases cortisol, your stress hormone, and increases testosterone, your male
Yeah.
sex hormone that everybody has, that's responsible for like confidence, dominance, aggression. So it makes it literally, not only will other people see you as more confident, but you yourself will actually feel more confident and less stressed at the same time, which is,
Yes.
amazing.
Exactly, exactly. I 100% agree with that because it's the truth. And to anyone listening, just try putting yourself in that position right now, and you're gonna realize, like, just from changing your position, the state of your mind will change as well, because you'll be like, oh yeah, I am so awesome, because you've presented yourself that way and you've put your body in that position. And not only
Absolutely.
that, but if you notice, like, people who do have this chest up, shoulders back position, they tend to speak louder, speak more confidently, and they make a presence because they're not closed off to themselves. Because you can listen to a change of someone's voice just because, like you mentioned, your hormones are going to change and you're going to produce more, basically feel like testosterone, which is responsible for everything he mentioned as well as growth. So definitely focus on putting yourself in this position. And so I love that you are someone who really helps a lot of people with this, not only in person, but you also have your awesome YouTube channel. And I want to know what your favorite part about being a trainer is.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part about being a trainer is just being able to help people improve their lives. I always tell people that, I'm an online coach, just like yourself too, Celeste.
Yes.
But helping people improve their lives for a living, you get double compensation. That's what I always say. It's like I get, you know, obviously paid for the people that I work with, which is awesome. I can support myself and make a living doing it. And I get a secondary form of compensation in terms of, fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment, whatever you want to call it, associated with just helping people, so that's my favorite part about, doing what I do, is just being able to help people, being able to go to sleep at night, knowing that I'm making a positive difference in other people's lives. And, it just feels good.
Yeah, exactly. I love what you said. And I want to touch on the fact that, yeah, we charge money, but this is how I look at it when we get paid. I look at it like, this is you not investing in necessarily me, but in yourself. Because when you pay money, like AJ says, the more you pay attention. And to anyone listening, AJ is both of our mentors. But anyway, so he stresses, like, the more you pay attention. So don't think of it like, oh, like, this is a lot of money. Think, I wouldn't do this if it was free, but because I have to pay, like, now I gotta pay attention. And another way you can look at it, at least for on my side being a trainer, I love knowing that these people are going to make these changes and see these changes and be able to carry them out for the rest of their life. Because I'm sure you'd probably agree with this, but we don't like when we have clients for a long, 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 long time, because that means we're not doing something that we should be doing. Something's wrong.
Yes.
And so it's awesome when you have a great, like, oh, client comes in, client goes out, they're good to go, because that shows like you're really making a true difference in helping them to not only, but of course, live a better quality of life. And when you mentioned that it helps you to sleep better at night and it gives you the sense of fulfillment, I'm going to touch on that on the side of wellness. That's actually like a huge deal, because for anyone who comes to you for help also has an occupation too. And a huge part of living a healthy life is having occupational wellness, having spiritual wellness, having intellectual, and the list goes on and on. There's 7 dimensions of wellness. And I mentioned them on my building more than just a body group. But the key is, like, you're not doing this because you hate it. You're doing this because you love it. Like, people who usually have professions of helping people, they do it because they know what they're doing, and 2, they absolutely love what they do. So the main goal is always to help people, and it helps us to live a better life as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very insightful what you just said for anybody listening about the occupational wellness. I never really thought about it that way. Like, yeah, I don't know. That was just, yeah,
Yeah,
that's important
definitely.
for everybody to get fulfillment out of their, vocation or their career, right?
Exactly. I love that you use the word vocation. That's a huge deal, because there's like like to anybody listening, look up the definition of career and then look at the definition of vocation,
Yeah.
because you can totally be happy in your career, like there's no doubt about it, but having a vocation means that you are absolutely living in your passion and you're inspired by it daily. And that's what Blake is doing, that's what I'm doing, and that's a key reason why we're really good at what we do, because we love it and it's really our vocation, which means it's our passion, and we don't look at it like job or work. It's we're changing lives because we really love to, and seeing
Yes.
the progress is a big deal.
And if you don't have that, if you're somebody that strives to be the best at whatever you're doing, if you're in something that's not backed by that passion and that I would do this anyway, kind of like, feeling, then you're not ever going to have the fuel to get to the, your greatest self. Unless you're doing something that you feel called to and gives you that fulfillment, you just won't be able to get it. Ralph Waldo Emerson said something like along the lines of, if you're going to climb a tree to get an apple, then you might as well pick the best apple while you're up there. And I don't know, that's kind of like subjective. You can interpret that in like a bunch of different ways. But for me, I always thought if it's worth doing in the first place, what I got from that quote was, if it's worth doing in the first place, it's worth doing with 100% of your being and your soul. And you can't commit to something 100% with your being and your soul if you're not getting what we're talking about right now. If you're not getting that secondary compensation, that fulfillment, then you're just not going to have the energy and the resources internally to be able to put that much energy and focus behind something,
Wow, I absolutely love that. That is so powerful and so cool. Like, you're so right. You literally can't become the best if you're not passionate about doing so. I mean, you might have passion to be the best, but do you have passion in what you're trying to be the best at? It's a huge difference. And
Yes.
I love the quote you use, because it's interesting. My dad used this quote and told my dad told me, and then it's been circling. But anyways, the thing is like, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So make the
Yes.
most of whatever you're doing, because it's not fun to go back and restart. And I think that connects a lot with your job and you being a corrective exercise specialist. You don't want people to necessarily go and neglect corrective exercise movements. That's why you're here, so you can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want them to go through what you went through and then have to backtrack and go, oh, I need to fix the things that I forgot to look at before.
Absolutely. Yes.
So awesome. And so I want to know something I always ask, because I have a huge emphasis on this whole wellness aspect, self-love, confidence. So I want to know how you show yourself love every single day.
Yeah. I just, that's funny, because I was just reading an article about this. I'm sure I show myself self-love the same way you do. I eat as healthy as I can. Every morning, I'm on vacation right now, but every morning when I'm in Detroit, I start my day off the same way. I will wake up in the morning, I'll meditate, and I'll listen to binaural beats while I'm meditating to help me get into a meditative state. Then I'll work out. And no, actually, I'll drink a green smoothie, and then I'll work out, and then I'll come home and eat some more just really good food. My supplementation is on point. Sometimes I go through phases with affirmation cards where I write down certain affirmations on a index card or something, and I carry them around in my pocket, and I'll just verbally scan through those throughout the day just to kind of prime my brain for success and health or whatever it is that I'm trying to work on. But I would say that everything that I do in my life, I'm showing myself that, because also with what I do professionally, I'm getting that, what we've been talking about the last 10 minutes here, I get that fulfillment. So that makes me feel good. So I feel good in the morning. I feel good when I'm working with people or coaching my clients online. I feel good when I'm making my YouTube videos. And then I get home and, I'll have another green smoothie. Throughout the day, I'll have some eggs. And, I just feel everything that I do is self-appreciative. And, I just really believe that we have to take care of our meat suits, as I'm sure you believe the same. And, but I mean, to answer your question in short, I think that pretty much everything that I do throughout the day is a way that I show myself self-love.
I am so glad you said that. That is the truth, and it is so powerful. Really, it is. Everything you've been saying is just so useful, and like people can really implement this starting right now, because you can look at your life from a perspective of self-love and think, okay, like, did I start my morning on the right foot? Like, I got up and I thought about drinking a glass of water, but I didn't. Well, why didn't I? Oh, I was feeling like I'd rather have coffee. Oh no, I just dehydrated myself, right? But instead you can think like, okay, like if I have this water, it's because I truly care about myself, I love myself, and I want to feel awesome and energized throughout the day. And it's like a totally different standpoint, and you know that that'll help you to make the decisions, because like you said, morning gets you on path to loving yourself every day. Like it's not this one thing you do, it's every little thing comes into this
Yeah.
big puzzle.
I think another thing that you kind of touched on there was like, again, like reframing how you're looking at whatever your routine, what you're going to eat. And a lot of people are trying to coerce themselves into eating healthy or working out. It's like a chore that they're forcing themselves to do.
Yep.
Which we know that is not sustainable. You know, you cannot adopt rather a healthy lifestyle and be able to sustain it if you're not actually enjoying it. Like if you're forcing yourself to like drink water and you're hating the experience, and you're working out and you're hating the experience, that's not going to be something that you're going to be able to keep up with. You know, you have to
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to like look at it differently. You know, instead of thinking about how hard your workout's going to be, think about how great you're going to feel and look afterwards. Instead of thinking about how that chlorophyll in your green smoothie is going to be really like bitter, think about, you know, how great it's going to make your body feel and all the health benefits associated with it, you know? And I think that makes it a lot more sustainable when you look at things that way.
Yes, exactly. Never, ever, ever approach changing your body or starting a new lifestyle from a place of I have to change because I'm not who I want to be or how I want to be. Approach it from I'm doing this because I am better than this and I deserve better than this, because that's the truth. No matter where you are in your life, like even if you've treated yourself poorly, you've made bad decisions, you've come out of a few maybe bad relationships or bad experiences, like don't look at it like the end all be all. Look at it like I've learned so much, and now it's time for me to implement what I've learned and make a change. Like personally, I came out of I was really depressed, but I hated my body, and I came out of a really bad relationship. Well, the ending of a bad relationship, and it was just like horrible because I felt terrible in my skin. I didn't like the way I looked, and I wanted to be a better athlete overall. And knowing that now that I approached my fitness journey from a place of I don't like where I am, that had a huge effect on the results that I was seeing from the beginning. I mean, I saw results quickly because I was like, I've always been just very like strong in my willpower and dedication and whatnot. But a huge deal now is that like stressing the importance of approaching a journey from a place of love and excitement is way more powerful. Like, even if it just means that you look at someone like Blake and you're like, wow, Blake every single day does makes these awesome choices, and he doesn't do them because he doesn't like where he is. He does them because he loves the way it makes him feel, you know? So like use the best that Blake has and use that to your advantage, because seriously, it's just a huge way to change your mindset, and you'll see more results. Like Blake mentioned earlier, I mean, you're releasing these hormones in your body that are making you feel better naturally and making you feel more powerful. So Blake, I want to ask you, like, what's your one message that you want the world to hear right now?
My one message would be that, you know, when you're dealing with things like, you know, stuff we were talking about at the beginning of the call, chronic joint pain, you've tried a bunch of things. It's just that, you know, there's always hope. You know, there's always a way to, you know, allow your body to heal itself, and you just have to figure out what that is, and then, you know, set up the environment so that your body can do that. So, you know, hope, it's very easy to lose hope when you're in pain, because pain is linked with depression. When you're in physical pain, you know, depression worsens and vice versa. So the two kind of come hand in hand. When you're in that depressed state, it's very easy to get hopeless, and, you know, just don't be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. there's always a choice, and you can make a difference on yourself big time. Yeah, that would be my message.
Wow. That's an awesome message, and seriously something that I'm sure everyone listening took a lot away from. And take notes if you didn't, write that down and put it somewhere, because a huge part of behavior change is making sure that you take the steps to put it out into the world that you're changing. And so do it, and just remind yourself every day. And I really, Blake, I really want everybody to be able to continue connecting with you and seeing your message and seeing all this help that you're putting out into the world and this value. So if you wouldn't mind, I already put your YouTube channel in the description, but please let everybody know exactly where they can find you. And yeah, just tell them where they can find you to keep connecting.
Yeah. So Celeste, most of my content, I make weekly videos and they go out on YouTube. If you just search Gorilla Zen Fitness, that's GUERRILLAZEN, all one word, Gorilla Zen Fitness, you should be able to find me on there. I make videos about corrective exercise, which is what we were talking about at the beginning here. So you can check me out there. I also have, a social media presence almost everywhere, but I'm most active on YouTube. But you can also check me out on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes, awesome. So everybody go check him out and send him some love and appreciation for sharing all of these awesome golden nuggets of knowledge, and let him know you appreciate it, and check out his videos and really learn from them and implement them right away, because that's the best way to approach this. And so Blake, thank you so much for being on, and I really appreciated everything you shared and really opening up and giving us this value and having this awesome conversation in general.
Yeah, no problem, Celeste. Thanks for having me on. You're very insightful. You're incredibly insightful, and you're going to go very far in terms of the impact that you're going to have on the people that you work with. I can just tell you that right now. So thank you for having me on. I'd love to be on again in the future. Maybe have you on my podcast. But yeah, it was awesome chatting with you.
Yes, 100% agree with that. So everybody, we will chat soon, and wherever you are, make your time awesome.